could really go for a creme brulee right now. Do you think we should make one? I mean, is it too late to make one? It's going on midnight. I think we deserve one though, don't you think? I mean, like, it. Let's just make one. So first things first, you're gonna measure out 2 cups of heavy cream. Right up to the tippy top of that line. There we go. And then you're gonna put that into a saucepan on medium to high heat. Now while that heavy cream is heating up, take your little vanilla bean. I like Tahitian, but you can also do Madagascar. Any bean that you can get your hands on, as long as it's not overly dry. Now, once you've split your vanilla bean, you're gonna take each half. So let's see, let's go with the big one first. Kind of flatten it out a little bit, hold it with your thumb, and then I like to just scrape all the way down. Whoopsies. Scrape all the way down and get all of those little beans. Look how pretty. So Tahitian beans tend to have more seeds, in my opinion. That's just from what I've ordered. But you can get bigger Madagascar as well. They're all pretty good. I mean, how can you go wrong with vanilla bean? So just scrape that along the side, or you can use your finger, just real carefully and kind of brush that off there. Then go back and take the other half and do the exact same thing. Just hold it with your thumb and then just gently scrape all the way down. Boop. In she goes. Now, if you want to keep it simple, you can just take that vanilla pod and throw the whole thing in there, and while that's simmering, all of that flavor is going to infuse. But I like to get the most out of them. So what I'll do is show you how to make a little bit of vanilla extract with these extra pods. So hold on to that, just set them aside for now. You want a light simmer around the edges. You don't want this to boil over, and trust me, it happens really quick. I get distracted easily, so there's a lot of heavy cream that ends up under my stovetop. So go ahead and just move that off that burner. Let all of those vanilla beans infuse and let it cool down so that you don't end up scrambling your egg yolks. Crack your eggs, save those whites. You're gonna make a little healthy omelet, or like I like to do much better than an omelet is French macarons. You can also make meringues. You can put them in a cocktail, get a little egg foam. Tastes much better than it sounds, but just trust me on that one. I almost ruined that whole batch. But yeah, I like to do a little back and forth there. You can use your hands. In fact, most of the time I use my hands. I'm trying to be a little more sanitary. But just make sure you don't get a whole lot of egg white in there. That's the really important part. Because if you get too much egg white in there, it'll ruin the texture of your delicious, rich, creamy creme brulee. You're gonna do this with 8 eggs, which sounds like a lot, but trust me, once you bite into it, you're gonna understand exactly why you needed that much. There we go. Just keep it going. Oh, see, when this happens, this is when the hands get involved. You just gotta let it. There we go. So make sure you start out with clean hands. I should really emphasize that with this dish. With all cooking, you should definitely wash your hands beforehand. But especially with a recipe where you're getting messy. You know what? We're just going all fucking in now, aren't we? Hands and all. They say that you get less eggshells. Oh, fuck. They say that you get less eggshells when you crack it on a flat surface, but honestly, I think it's exactly the same. I think it's just placebo, makes you feel better about it. So next we're gonna take our sugar, measure out 3/4 of a cup. I should probably have had a measuring cup out. This is it. Here we go. Okay. 3/4 of a cup. 1. 2. And 3. Now take your whisk. My whisk is shitty, but I like it that way. I have bought other whisks since this one broke. The handle just completely came off. I have like 3 other whisks. And I always try them, but you know what? I think actually having a shorter handle just gives you way more control over the amount that you're whipping or whisking. You're gonna wanna do this by hand. I have made the mistake before of just getting comfortable and reliant on my mixer, but you don't want a ton of bubbles. When you get foam, it's not the end of the world. You know what? I actually got overexcited and I like over whipped these recently, and it created kind of a nice crust, surprisingly. So you can get a little weird with it. But yeah, overall, usually for a nice creme brulee, you don't want to create a lot of air bubbles. You just want these all mixed together, kind of smooth and homogeneous. A little bit paler than when you started, but not super foamy. That right there, maybe give it a little. Now this is still too hot. So we have to wait for that to cool. I honestly would say give it another 5 to 10 minutes. You're gonna add that salt into that mixture. What that's gonna do is basically offset a little bit of that sweetness from the sugar. Salt just brings out the flavor in other ingredients, meaning that's just gonna make the vanilla taste more vanilla-y, right? It's gonna make all of this come together really nicely and make those flavors kind of shine. So next, you wanna very slowly do what's called tempering your eggs. Tempering is basically raising the mixture of the eggs up very slowly so that they don't immediately scramble when you incorporate all of the heavy cream. As soon as you start mixing too much of that really hot heavy cream, it's just gonna make all of those egg proteins bunch up, and then you end up with a really gross vanilla omelet. We don't want that. So go ahead and very slowly just add a tiny pinch, and that's important to mix in really quickly. Once you feel confident that's mixed in, just add a little bit more. Oops. Oopsies. Just mix like your life depends on it. Also, if you fuck this up and it does get a little scrambly, I have a backup plan for you. It's not the end of the world. You don't need to tuck yourself away in your room with shame. Just slowly, whoops, slowly stream that in. Just mix and mix and mix. Oh, we are getting foamy. So we're doing exactly what I said not to do. But you know what? There are bigger problems in the world. A foamy creme brulee is better than no creme brulee, so. Okay, now if you start making your creme brulee and it starts to get a little eggy and there's some big chunks in there and you realized maybe you got a little bit too ahead of yourself. You got a little overexcited like we all do. All you have to do is take a strainer, right? So something a little like this, and then take another bowl and just before you put anything into your ramekins, you're going to pour that over your strainer, and that's going to take all of those little chunks out, right? So you're still gonna get just as creamy of a creme brulee as you would have beforehand. Now we're going to set up our bain-marie, which is basically just a fancy French term for water bath. While you get all of this prepped and ready, you're gonna put a kettle of hot water on to heat. Get that going. And now you're going to take each of your little ramekins. You can get these online in most stores, like a TJ Maxx, or am I allowed to say TJ Maxx? Go ahead and take your ladle and kind of collect some of that foam off the top. This is how you salvage it when you're nervous on camera for the first time and you over whisk, so that you don't get that crust that I was talking about, which honestly isn't the end of the world. But for the sake of my perfectionism, and because I know that you guys will judge me if I leave it, we're gonna go ahead and take some of that foam off. And you don't really need to throw this out. If you have one maybe that you're just making for yourself, if you're not trying to impress your friends, I just kind of put it in my little like fucked up one, and it's still delicious. It's just not perfect, but none of us are. So now get above your cups. Give it a little mix so that your vanilla beans aren't lingering at the bottom, because that happens a lot and I always forget to do that, and then one of them ends up just being the vanilla bean jackpot, and then the rest are like, you know, jealous of that one. So, already fucked it up. Okay. You have to do it with confidence. You can't hesitate. Ooh, look at that. She is looking pretty. So, see, like, this is what I mean. There's always one that just has a little bit less. I'm going to kind of scrape all of that good stuff in there. This is going to be my little reject one. We're going to add the foam because it needs a little boost. And that way you can kind of see too what happens when you add the foam. Like, it's really not that bad. It's just that creme brulee is seen as like a pure, beautiful thing. You can have no error. Even like the ones that you mess up are still delicious. So like, it's not that bad. Okay, so here we're gonna get a little crazy, right? Because you're still gonna have some of those bubbles there, those big bubbles. What you can do, I fucking love using this thing. So you're gonna take your mini flamethrower, right? Just get it going. Just go around and see that? All those bubbles are gonna pop, right? All those big bubbles, just bam, gone. Magic. If only all of our problems could be solved with a mini flamethrower. In fact, actually, you know what? Now that I'm saying it out loud, I think they can. Look at that. Ooh, perfect. Even that foam is kind of breaking up a little bit. Okay, so now that we have that smooth and silky, I'm gonna take, actually, you know what, no. We need to put it in our preheated oven that was supposed to be at 300, but I forgot to do it. So get that to 300, do it ahead of time. Don't be like me. There we go. And also make sure that you know your oven, right? Because my oven is an actual fossil, so it runs a little bit high because we don't know what's wrong with it, but that's what it does. So familiarize yourself with how your oven works. If you need one, get a little temperature or a little thermometer that you can keep track of that temperature with. So do that. Now we're gonna sit and wait for my oven to preheat because I didn't do what I'm saying to do. And yeah. Now that your kettle is hot and your oven is hotter, you're going to take your ramekins and your unfilled bain-marie, so I guess it's not a bain-marie yet, it's just a pan. And you're going to very, very carefully put that into the middle rack of your oven. And then you're going to take your hot kettle of water And you're going to very, very carefully and very slowly pour that right in to your pan. You want it to get up to halfway up the ramekins. That should usually be enough. My rings are heating up.
Sure.
Okay. About good. Ah, motherfuck. God damn it. She is hot. All right. Woo. That's the problem with solid gold, baby. Okay, not practical, but you know what? Fashion doesn't always mean function. But it doesn't hurt to be stylish, now does it? Okay, science time. The reason why you're going to do that water bath, let's break it down. Water has a lower max temperature that it can reach than air and metal, right? It's, I guess, less conductive. I could just be using that word wrong, but I think that's what it is. Because of the higher egg content in this recipe too, that allows it to get much fudgier and richer than a creme brulee, because let's be honest, we all hate a bland, watery creme brulee. There's nothing worse than getting your hopes up for like having that moment of that perfect little crunch right on top, that crack of the top, and you're thinking it's gonna be like a delicious, just indulgent bite, and then you get like some vanilla bean water, just like a glorified milk slushy. It's gross. Yeah, so we don't want that. We like them thick and rich around here. So you want high egg content, but that also means that you are more prone to scrambled egg texture. So you want to make sure that you get those out early enough. You never want to overbake, and you don't want it at too high of a temperature. So keep it at 300. I do usually about 30 minutes. That is the cap. You'd want it just set around the edges. You still want a nice little wiggle to it. So when you touch it, it should have just a ripple effect in the center. And now we wait 30 minutes later. That was my time travel sound. Now very carefully and slowly, so as to not spill or see that? Or to splash any of that water into your beautiful, or in my case, moderately attractive creme brulee. Then you're going to use a spatula to gently pick these up, get them out of the water, and put them on a cooling rack. So be very careful. I grab things that are really hot a lot. You probably shouldn't do that. My fingertips are like burned most days, so don't learn from me. I say while doing a cooking show. My sleeve is also just completely dunked in that, so love it. Love that for me. Oh my god. I'm done. All right, so let those cool for probably about a couple hours, just until they're completely at room temperature. You want them at room temp because if you put them in the fridge too quickly, they're gonna get a little bit shocked by that temperature change, and that's when cracks happen. And you want the right kind of crack, not the wrong kind of crack. You want the sugar crack on top, not a crack down the middle, because that's gonna end up making for a not so smooth surface to get your sugar dusted across and create that beautiful crust. So now we wait. Patience is a virtue. So now that your creme brulee has chilled in the fridge overnight, it's gonna be way more firm in texture. And now's the fun part. Let's brulee some shit. Some may argue against this. It just depends on you. I like a really thick crust of sugar. I want like shards. I don't want a half-assed, disappointing little crack. I want it to like really, really crack, you know? So just get take about a tablespoon and just kind of shake it around. So you want it real thick and nice and even. All right, then you're going to very carefully, emphasis on very carefully, because you can singe off your eyebrows. People make it seem more dangerous than I think it really is, but still we have to not forget that you are working with mild pyrotechnics. So get your safety on and, oh wait, sorry, troubleshoot. There we go. And then get bruleeing. So you just want to kind of move it around. Don't keep it in one spot too long. And then all of those little sugar granules are going to melt into little balls and then slowly come together to form a crust across the whole thing. And it never fails. Your brulee torch is gonna pull something. It's gonna have a mind of its own. It never just goes smooth. Let's see, let's turn this a little bit. And then just keep that moving. Oh yeah, that sizzle is nice to hear. Here's your ASMR moment for the video. Actually, I think there's gonna be a couple. And once all of that kind of comes together, just give it a little second, let that set, right? Let that do its thing, and then you're gonna go back in with another tablespoon. Just kind of evenly put it around. Everyone always forgets to do the edges. The edges just don't get as much love, but are just as important. In fact, feel it out. Sometimes you don't need the whole tablespoon. You don't want it to be thick enough to, like, you know, cut your mouth up, but you just want a little something, something. And then just go back in. I really should have bought like a real flamethrower for this. How many opportunities or excuses in your life do you have to buy a real flamethrower? And I think I missed my shot. I missed my chance. Just glaze over that. All of that sugar melted. Ooh, she is looking pretty. Look at that. Oh, like, tell me this isn't modern day alchemy. This is magic right here. Just right before your eyes. And I like that burnt flavor. You can go a little bit lighter, but personally I think those like bitter caramel notes that happen when you scorch the sugar, when you get those really dark parts, I think that bitterness really just beautifully complements and kind of balances out all of the sweet that you get from the rest of the dessert. Oh, perfect. Look at that. Now, as tempting as it is, you just want to let it sit for like a couple minutes. All of that sugar, all those sugar crystals that you just melted are going to harden, and that's what's going to give you that really satisfying crunch, that crack that you want. Because if you were to hit it right now, your spoon would basically just sink into all of that caramel, and then it gets stuck to your spoon, and then you have a mess and none of the fun parts. So just wait it out. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Let's get the money shot, shall we? Oh, that was so satisfying. There's nothing like that first bite. For all of your ASMR viewing pleasure. That is so fucking good. Oh my god, that's so good. I made that. See? Don't stress the foam. Oh my god, that is so good. Like, A good creme brulee, right? A properly made creme brulee forces you to shut down everything else. Your mind goes still. You have to close your eyes so that you can give that bite, that perfect bite, all of the attention it deserves. And that's why we do this, baby. I don't know what else to say. I don't think there is much else to say. You can do this with so many flavors. You can make a lemon creme brulee. Just add a little lemon zest. Literally anything that you have laying around. Oranges. Muddle up some raspberries. You could even throw in some cardamom, maybe some ginger. Get crazy with it. Do what you want. There is no way to make actually that's a lie. There are ways to make a bad creme brulee, but it's very, very difficult to make a bad creme brulee. I will say, however, there is nothing quite like vanilla bean. So what exactly is vanilla and why is it so good? I mean, it's in everything that we love, from birthday cakes to body lotions and creme brulee to candles. It somehow becomes synonymous with comfort. Every time you smell or taste vanilla, you're always put at ease. Basically, it comes down to vanillin compounds found in vanilla extract at your local grocery store, or synthesized in imitation vanilla. Imitation vanilla comes in two different forms. There's the ones that are trying to make you believe that they're vanilla extract. Basically, they take the vanillin compound, which is the most identifiable or recognizable smell and taste that we get from vanilla. And then we have clear vanilla, which isn't even trying to pretend that it's related to actual vanilla. Tastes entirely different, but is kind of what you think of when you buy like that traditional grocery store birthday cake. Side by side, they don't taste anything alike, but it still has a note of vanillin that does kind of that brings out that nostalgic childhood cheap vanilla taste that honestly there's nothing wrong with, but we can't sit here and pretend that it has the exact same flavor as a real vanilla. And then you have vanilla beans. Vanilla beans are where all vanilla extract comes from. In each of those pods are all those little seeds like you saw earlier that give those beautiful specks to every dessert that you put them in. But the pods themselves also carry a lot of flavor, and we'll come back to that later. These pods come from a flower, the vanilla orchid actually, which only blooms for about 24 hours a year. So if you don't catch it and pollinate it in that one day, you don't get a vanilla bean. And then that's a whole year's crop that just disappeared into thin air. After they're picked, they are dunked in a hot bath of water or flashed at a high temperature, and that's what releases all of those delicious vanillin notes that are just hiding in those raw beans. After that, they're left out to dry, and that just condenses all of that flavor and makes sure that they're a little bit more shelf stable so that they can be shipped around the world for all of us to enjoy. We're seeing beans exported from more countries than ever before. You're starting to see places like the Philippines, Indonesia, Ghana, all over really, cultivating and producing vanilla beans for the first time. There are a lot of nuances in vanilla, just depending on so many different environmental factors, from the way that the soil from the vitamins and minerals in the soil to acidity levels, to the amount of rain that they get, to the way that they're farmed. And all of these things change different notes that are going to come out in each vanilla bean. Last but not least, we have Mexico. Mexico is where all vanilla originated. It was first cultivated by the Totonacs, and then later by the Aztecs, and then by the Spaniards after the fall of the Aztecs, when Cortez brought it back to Spain and tried to spread it to the rest of the world. It became very popular across Europe, but when they tried to cultivate it, they quickly realized it failed everywhere outside of Mexico. And this is because Mexico is the only place in the world, or Central America, I should say, where orchid bees naturally roam. Without orchid bees, we have no pollination, which means no vanilla beans. The little island of Reunion, where he lived and made this discovery was just east of Madagascar. It was later renamed the Island of Bourbon, hence why all Madagascar vanilla is now called bourbon vanilla, even though it has actually nothing to do with bourbon. However, I have a little recipe that does involve bourbon and can put all of those leftover vanilla beans to good use. So let's see what we can do with that, shall we? As if creme brulee wasn't enough, if you really want to get the most out of these vanilla beans, here's something that you can do that takes a total of 5 minutes in prep work, maybe even less, but will let you enjoy these all year long. I'm going to take our 2 vanilla beans that we used earlier and scraped out all those seeds because these vanilla pods are still going to give us a ton of flavor. I have a couple extra from our experiments with perfecting this recipe earlier in the week. I'm just going to put all 4 of those in here. If you have extra, definitely throw them in there. But honestly, about 4 will do. I think that's enough. And then you can take an alcohol of your choosing, any alcohol really, but the higher the proof, the better. People usually use vodka because it's very neutral, so you can get that pure vanilla flavor. However, I like using bourbon because I think that those caramel and spice notes just really complement and enhance all of that creamy vanilla that's going to come out of these pods. You can take a funnel. I just got this online for I think like $2. You can find it at most local craft stores. And then you're just going to pour all of that in there. And fill it up almost to the brim, just enough at least so that all of those beans are covered. Ooh, let's see if I can still do a little flair bartending. Oh, just kidding, let's not do that. Crisis averted. Boop. Okay. Now, all you have to do is seal that, shake it around a little bit, and then forget about this for 2 months to 8 months. Honestly, the longer the better. You can use it after a month or 2. I'm not gonna lie to you though, it's not gonna be very potent. It's gonna take a little while for all of these beans to infuse and really give you that strong, rich vanilla flavor that you're gonna get from a store-bought extract. But you will start to get notes of it coming out. It's just gonna be more bourbon heavy than it is vanilla heavy. This one has only been in this bottle for about a week now, but you can already see it's a little darker in color. You can also see a lot of those vanilla particles that have broken down and spread through there. The vanilla beans are going to keep that shape. They're gonna stay exactly where they are, or exactly the way they are, but those remaining seeds and some of it will just soften and infuse all of that amazing flavor into your bourbon. This will be at its best after about a year. Keep it in a dark place, basically just leave it alone. After that, you'll have a pretty delicious vanilla extract. You can infuse all kinds of extra things into it if you want to get a little wild and kind of customize it to your taste. As you use it, you can continue to refill it. I would say for about another year after that. You can get a lot of uses out of this if you just have the time and patience to treat these vanilla beans the way they deserve. I'm getting a little tired. I think I'm gonna finish this in bed, but wasn't this worth staying up past your bedtime for? Maybe I'll see you again tomorrow night?